The Beatles is not a normal story. It's a supernatural story, and the pressure was supernatural, and it required supernatural luck and forbearance to recover from.
So I'm sure most of you have heard about the Paul being dead thing. If you haven't, look it up, because this video is already long enough to explain that. But basically, while I've had this little time off, I've been looking into it again, and looking into other stuff as well, because honestly, the Paul's being dead thing, it doesn't end there. It goes way deeper, and it is way more esoteric and spiritual than anybody could have imagined. For me too, especially. I never thought it went this deep. I kind of figure that the Beatles, like all other like Elvis and Grateful Dead, all these like bands were used for as a part of a psyop, mind control program, to basically brainwash the masses with drugs and psychedelic music, especially in the 60s. So the Beatles are so significant because they are considered like the best band of all time. They're the most popular band of all time, and now I'm starting to see why they're pushed so much in society, and not just then, even today. Today I'm not just going to talk about the Paul being dead thing. I'm going to get into revealing to you the identity of the man who has been taking his place this whole time, Billy Shepherd, Billy Shears, and the symbolism on the albums, the music, and the songs. I'll cover some of that stuff, but I'm mostly going to get into that and just kind of just show you clips, interviews, and stuff that basically expose Paul McCartney as being a filthy, dirty liar. A lot of these singers and celebrities, that what they present is a character, just like in a movie. And in my opinion, Paul McCartney and the Beatles, the Beatles is an entity. The Beatles are characters, but that is to say that the original members, only one alive technically, Ringo, poor guy. But that's the world stage for you. It doesn't mean that there was a George Harrison, Paul McCartney, Ringo Starr, and there's still a Ringo, but a John Lennon. But you'll see what happens, what I believe happened to them, really. But it'll show you basically, how this system, especially the entertainment industry, they take people, use them as their puppets, and they use them to push their agenda. They put symbolism. They make them put symbolism in their work, and make them wear insignias, occult, Freemason, stuff of that nature, on their person, to basically just parade it around and mock people like us. And a lot of times, as I mentioned before, and again in this video, I don't think all these celebrities know most of the time. Like the top tier ones, the A-listers, yes, but not everyone is an accomplice. I feel like the Beatles, if you watch all their old interviews, I think they were truly genuine people, especially as musicians and artists, and something happened that a lot of people are not aware of, and that I wasn't aware of. This goes way past the Paul being dead thing, even though I do concentrate on that, but I concentrate on it because I'm mostly trying to expose this new Paul McCartney as not being the real Paul McCartney. And he lies. He rewrites Beatles history all the time. And the more I watched interviews of this new Paul, and from even going way back to the 70s, 80s, and today, it's just things weren't adding up. And you'll see in these clips testimonies from other people as well. So I do hope you enjoy this. Put a lot of work into it. I hope you guys learned something especially, and I will see you guys right after the video. It's kind of split into three parts. The first part I focus on Bill Shepherd, the man who I believe replaced Paul McCartney, and who has been playing the role of Paul McCartney since the real one died in '66. Well, and you can watch other videos on that get more in depth into the death aspect. But I'm getting into the whole esoteric, psyop thing with the death, exposing this fall Paul, and Ringo too. Ringo's no saint, trust me. So let's. Yeah, the first part is about Bill Shepherd mostly. The second part is focusing on the singing voices, watching clips, and of course I throw gags and humor in there. And I threw a lot in here this time. I went way over, but trust me, they're all necessary. So that, and then the last part will focus mostly on interviews and stuff, and solo interviews, ones of them together. Take a look at this picture right here. Of all the pictures you've seen today of Bill Shepherd, Paul McCartney, this is the earliest one that I could come across. Right there. And boy, doesn't he look really familiar? I wonder if I've seen this face before. Born on 9/9/1937, which makes sense, being that Paul's number is 6 and his number is 9. He comes from Northern Scotland clan of the Campbell clan. That's why people say the name Campbell and not Shepherd or Shears. Shears is like the alter ego, but his last name is not Campbell, but he comes from the Campbell clan, the Scottish clan. And it's through his mother's side.
The conclusion you reach is that I'm dead, then you're wrong, because I'm alive and living in Scotland.
Thank you, Mr. McCartney.
Even though they grew up poor, it just shows you that having royal blood, it doesn't always mean you get that silver spoon, I guess. But I guess he got his redemption in the end anyway. He was a musician for Pickwick. Yes, his group was called Billy Pepper and the Pepper Pots, as we saw earlier. He was also the music director starting in 1964, a very significant year, yeah. Music director for Billy Fury, Billtone Productions, and this was at Decca Records, okay? And then, also within the same time, he was hired as Paul McCartney's double. Bill Shepherd had his in the music business, even though he was a studio musician, doing basically recordings of Beatles covers and some of their original songs that no one cared about. They were basically trying to, everyone did that to try to milk from, the fame of the Beatles, the success of the Beatles. So obviously he had he had a connection, and I'm pretty sure that it was orchestrated, since the beginning. We all know who pulls the strings behind the curtain, so he definitely was connected, and I mean, this picture is pretty telling, I'll say. Here's another one as well. I don't know if this one, how authentic this one is, because it looks so different, but I've seen this one floating around, and this one I can believe because it looks just like Paul on the Sgt. Pepper album, that mustache. This one. So here's the one I was talking about, right there. Yeah. You know, and that one, it could be, but it's kind of really hard to tell, especially with the Christopher Lloyd face that he's making. He looks like a young Doc Brown or something, or like Ed Norton. But yeah, that's supposedly the earliest picture of Billy Shepherd. This one, though, right below me, is pretty definitive in my opinion, but actually, I found an even clearer image. Oh my, what do we have here? Is that Matthew Broderick? Bueller, skipping school and taking photos at a photo booth. He looks really awkward, you know. That doesn't look like Paul McCartney. Now, the difference between these two is that one is a fake and one is real. Can you guess which one is fake? Yep, that one. This is Paul's real face. We should all know what Paul's face looks like at this point. This looks more oval-ish, like this one. I wonder why someone would doctor a photo to make it an oval face. It's kind of like how Fall McCartney likes to rewrite Beatles history. That's kind of what they're doing here, some 1984 shit. This is as crisp and crystal clear as you can get to a picture of Billy Shepherd. And this is on Google Images. This is not Paul McCartney. Paul McCartney never looked like this, okay? The hair, the glasses, the fake mustache. Well, this is probably a real mustache, but honestly, does this guy look more like this guy, or does he look like this guy, Sgt. Pepper, Billy Shears? If you look close, same face shape, literally the same head shape. The eyes, very droopy looking, like worrisome, like, oh my god, I hope they don't find out that I'm not Paul McCartney. The eyebrows are virtually the same. How they kind of go around right here on each side. Boom. The hair, the natural hairline, you could tell is parted, is right here, and the hair parts this way, whereas the real Paul, his hair parted the opposite way. Oh, and look which way his hair parts. And they both have the same exact mustache. Oh my goodness. Yeah, we have Billy Shears right here, Billy Shepherd, Paul McCartney. This is the best picture we can use to compare the two, honestly. This is not coincidence. This is not some uncanny, conspiracy. And it's not far-fetched either. This guy is this guy.
And if they're fully switched on, like, dirt, and they're going, all you've got to do is sort of, oh yeah, but you used to do it, lads. You know, but we had a lot more incentive then. So, but we did, I mean, you know, those films you look at, that was us doing it, you know.
Well, if that's what doing it is, that's why I don't want to do it.
Yeah, right, yeah, I think.
Never like that. It was always
Yeah, but
love me.
Why is Paul McCartney nicknamed Macca? Because I'm from Liverpool and they abbreviate everything in Liverpool. McCartney is a bit too formal for, hey, Macca. And so George Harrison, hey, Hazza. John Lennon, Lenny. So they just abbreviate everything there, and so that's why. It's a derivation of McCartney. Why is Paul McCartney wearing an op badge? Well, if I knew what an op badge was, I would tell you.
Beatles fans kept looking for clues. They found many of them on the cover of Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. Supposedly, the front cover depicted a funeral. Paul, on the cover, is wearing a patch that says OPD, which stood for Officially Pronounced Dead. In fact, it was a patch from the Ontario Police Department saying Ontario Provincial Police. On the back cover, George's finger points to the words Wednesday morning at 5 o'clock because that's when Paul was officially pronounced dead.
I suspect it's the thing, a badge I had on the Sgt. Pepper thing, which was like a Canadian thingy. I never found out what it was. I just liked the badge. Why did Paul McCartney write Let It Be? I had a dream. It was in the years when we were probably overdoing everything, drinking and staying out too late and getting crazy. So I was a bit sort of exhausted and I went to bed. Anyway, I had a dream. And my mother, who died probably about 10 years previously, she came to me in the dream. It's a magic moment because you're actually there with your mother. So she seemed to know that I was a bit stressed out and she said, don't worry, it's going to be fine. Just let it be. And I thought, wow. And just felt really great that my mother had given me that advice and woke up and was just remembering the dream. And I thought, what did she say? She said, let it be. And so I thought that was a great idea for a song. So I went to the piano and wrote it. Now I'm going to look at the last question. Unfortunately, you won't at home won't be able to see this last question. What? How dare you ask me that? When did Paul McCartney become Sir? A few years ago. I don't actually remember what year it was. Well, it's amazing because the first thing you hear, you get a letter through the post saying you're going to be knighted, but don't tell anyone. So that's a pretty buzzy letter to get. So, what? It's very exciting, actually. You have to be a bit of a royalist. You have to think that the Queen is cool. Some people actually turn it down. Okay. When did Paul McCartney write Yesterday? Um, 1960. Or something like that. I'm not very good on dates. It was in the 60s, shortly before we recorded it, so you can look it up. The great thing about Yesterday was it kind of wrote itself. People say to me, do you believe in mysticism and magic? With that story, I kind of have to, because I just woke up one morning, and there's this do-do-do, do-do-do-do, 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 do-do-do-do.
We're Carnival then, we're doing this press call and we were saying to McCartney, you know, it's 37 years ago to the day you recorded Love Me Do today. And he was going, how do you know that? And he was like, we know more about your band than you do.
Just ask a fan. They know the dates. All right. When did Paul McCartney and Wings break up? 70s sometime? No, the trouble is, I'm too busy doing stuff to remember all the dates. Right, when did Paul McCartney learn to play the piano? So yeah, we had a piano in the house, and I used to just noodle on it. And I asked my dad to teach me, but he wouldn't. He said, you've got to get proper lessons. So I took proper lessons and couldn't really get on with it because the music I was hearing in my head wasn't do 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 do. Do 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 do. I couldn't do that. When did Paul McCartney join the Beatles? I should know that.
What, are you kidding me?
Yeah, I mean, I was like a teenager, and John had a group that was actually called the Quarrymen, and I joined them when I was a teenager, so I would be, I don't know, 16, 17 or something. And then that became the Beatles, the Quarrymen. Some of the members fell away. George joined, and then eventually Ringo joined. So that would be like, I think the Beatles was when I was about 19. Did the Beatles and Elvis ever meet? Yeah, we did. And he was renting a house while he was doing movies. We were so keen to meet him, and we went to this house, the four of us all together, and he came to the door, which is a matter of dispute, because we did this story once, and Ringo said, no, we didn't. He was sitting on the couch. I say, no, he didn't. He came to the door. So my story, which I believe is the correct one. Sorry, Ringo.
Now, I have to do one more. And I actually almost forgot to upload this one. And I'm glad I didn't, because this one right here is the one that literally made me facepalm myself, because I am somewhat musically inclined, and you don't have to be Gershwin or Bernstein to know the answer to this common knowledge, music question. Okay? So, check this question out that someone sent to Paul McCartney. And this is probably my favorite moment, one of my favorite moments from this video, which I don't have favorite moments from my own videos, but honestly, I'm glad I found this, guys. Look at this.
Okay, did the Beatles use a click track? No, because there were no such things as click tracks.
Well, if Paul McCartney says it, then it must be true, right? I mean, he's a famous, well-known, well-trained, self-trained musician, right? Right? No such thing as click tracks in the 60s? Really? Because I think my friends Max Steiner, the composer of the original King Kong, not the piece of shit one with Adrian Brody, Pinocchio, and Jack Black, not that one, the 1933 version. 1933. He also did Casablanca, many other movies, and Carl Stalling. I think they both disagree with you, because after that, now I'm starting to doubt if he is even a musician. I mean, I know he's self-trained and everything, but someone of his musical, talent caliber, you think he'd know when the click track was invented. But no, it wasn't around in the 60s. So how the fuck was it around in the early 30s? Yes, Max Steiner and Carl Stalling were responsible for the creation of it. And I know this because Max Steiner is legit one of my favorite Hollywood composers. King Kong is literally one of the best movie scores ever made, hands down. So, yeah. I can't anymore. I just can't.
And in actual fact, it was a good thing, because you just had to hold the tempo. And if you ever went off, if you're a good band, you just go with that little, Drummers notoriously speed up. I don't really think Ringo ever did. He held a really good tempo. But if he did, we'd just go with him. We could absorb that little thing, but he hardly ever did. And he was, he's a great drummer. So we didn't need a click track. We didn't have one, even if we'd have needed one.
You gotta be kidding me.
The thing is, he also is a producer. It's not like he hasn't been in a fucking control room before. How the hell do you not know that click tracks have been around since the 30s? How the hell do you not know that click tracks have been around since the 30s if you are a musician, a composer? Now, there's this channel called Oldies But Dillies, and even though he says in his description that the gravestone is photoshopped, it was Paul's last song and hangout for Paul and John when they were young. Technically, I think Paul's last song was Paperback Writer, or Here, There, and Everywhere. I don't know if that's factually true, but either way, well, Paperback Writer is actually about him wanting to leave the business. So it might be Eleanor Rigby, or it might be Here, There, Everywhere. One of them on Revolver. The point is that when you put stuff out there like this, people are going to look and automatically think it's just true. A lot of people aren't going to take the time to look into it because people are lazy. And according to Paul is Dead, theories and speculation, universally people tend to agree that Paul McCartney didn't die in the car wreck on 9/11. He died 11/9, November 9th, okay, 1966, at 5 o'clock in the morning. And that clue for that is on the back of Sgt. Pepper when George Harrison in the back is pointing to the lyric that says Wednesday morning, 5 o'clock. Okay? And there's a couple other things in here too, and that I wanted to show you, because, like I say in this video a little later, and even before, there is a lot of disinfo out there, and it gives movements like this a bad name, especially those who are trying to legitimately find facts and not crap like this. For example, now this is quite hilarious. Jumping to another deceiver's channel, or just someone who doesn't really actually take the time to do research. Josh Reeves, the global reality channel, like the global fantasy channel, because this guy has no concept of reality. Basically, here's a video he did. Josh Reeves exposes film manipulation of fall evidence. Okay, let's see exactly what Josh Reeves means. While attempting to find a source for film clip taken from John Lennon's Imagine film, purporting to be evidence of fall being referred to as Bill, aka Bill Shepard or Bill Shears, I noticed that in one clip he's referred to as Bill, and another he isn't, leading me to believe the clip had been doctored. However, to my astonishment, that when I discovered was actually two different takes of the same clip edited to appear as the same clip! Exclamation point. The first one is taken from Gimme Some Truth, the making of Imagine, and the second from the 1988 Imagine film. Note that John and George swapped lines between the two clips. Now, there is some truth in here, except the overall point he's trying to make is it's not true. Now, it could be just ignorance, which it probably is, or just laziness, or maybe he is actually trying to deceive people. I don't know. Why don't you reach out to me, Josh, and let me know. Let's play the clip, and let's see exactly what he means.
Do you ever see much of the Beatles these days?
The Beatles, no, I did see Beat Land though recently. He's doing quite well in Sweden, I believe.
So he mentions Beatle Ed, and at first I really didn't understand what that meant. And then he mentioned he was, well, you'll see right here.
Number 5, that's it. Yeah, I heard that. He's doing quite well in Sweden, I believe. Number 5. Number 5, that's it. Yeah, I heard that too.
Now, was Ringo doing anything in 1971 when this Imagine film was being made? At least the so the film came out in 1972, following the album release, and they were while they were filming it, I assume it was. Well, they say here actually 1971. See, that was taken from the clip. That first clip was taken from the making of John Lennon's Imagine. I believe they were filming this. It was 1971, and then the second clip that follows was the cut that made it into the actual film, and you will see a difference. So he mentions Beatle Ed, code names obviously, as doing well in the Swedish charts, number 5. I don't think Ringo was doing music back then, okay? I'm pretty sure that he was just doing nothing, collecting the royalties. So let's go on.
Yoko, is that
Yes.
a team? Not a team.
Yes.
Can I have
Fairly fresh. This is actually a Beatle wife fixing the tea for one of the Fab 4 ex-Beatles.
Fab 3?
Fab 3, yeah.
See Beatle Bill making a pig of himself.
See much of the Beatles these days, the other Beatles.
I
Beatles
saw
are great round growing up.
Beatle Ed.
Beatle Ed, how is he?
He was alright, but he was just going off on a tour.
Beatle Ed's not doing so well these days, is he, Beatle Ed?
Well, he's number 5 in Sweden.
Oh, in Sweden, that's it.
Notice that in the first clip, George asked John about the Beatles, and in the second one, John asked George. Yes. That could be for many reasons, why they swap lines. This is not the same candid behind-the-scenes footage as we have been led to believe. This is scripted dialogue, true, just like a reality show, and it proves that they were premeditated in leaving more clues pertaining to the imposter Paul. Also kind of true. But why would they do that if Paul is right there? If Bill Shepard is there? It doesn't make sense. They probably cut it out for another reason. I will explain why. It proves they were premeditated in leaving more clues pertaining to the imposter Paul. Someone has replaced the Imagine version with a completely different take. Well, alright. Here's the problem though, Josh Reeves. Now in 1971, if we go to the Swedish music charts, I don't see Ringo Starr anywhere from 69 all the way to 1975. But guess who is on the charts in 1971? Paul and Linda McCartney, Eat at Home, which it says the final chart position was number 2. So at the time it could have been number 5, could have bounced up. That's the only, and Paul McCartney was just starting Wings in 1971. So I doubt they had any songs on the charts. Actually, they did it in Sweden at least. We're focusing on Sweden here, okay? Paul McCartney / Wings did not have any songs on the Swedish charts, but Paul and Linda McCartney did, and from the sound of it, that sounds like a song that would be number 5. So, Beatle Ed is fall, Paul is fall, okay? Beatle Bill, guys, is none other than Phil Spector. You want to know how I know it's Phil Spector?
Number 5.
Let's number 5. Made me think of Revolution 9. Let's okay. So look at that. The glasses, the long shaggy hair, kind of like what was it, that Gallagher brother? I used the clip for it in this video. Oh, Noel Gallagher, yeah, kind of looks like Noel Gallagher. There you see Phil Spector right there. That is not Paul McCartney / Bill Shepard. It's not even close. And you want to know the dead giveaway, guys? Chris Reeves, if you're listening, pay very close attention to this. You may learn something. When they cut to when George says, looks like Beatles Bill is making a pig of himself, whatever he says. Goes to the shot right here of Phil Spector. Now let's look at a picture of Phil Spector from the 70s. Okay, wow. Let's look at, wow, that's so similar. The same glasses, the same shaggy haircut. That is, she's leaving home, never mind. Same glasses, same haircut. And look at that ring he's wearing. It is an S, okay? Kind of wraps around like this. You could find an image of it online. The S obviously means Spector. Phil Spector. Phil just happens to rhyme with Bill, too. Right there. He's making a pig of himself. That's clearly Phil Spector. Clearly Phil Spector. How the hell could you mix that up with Paul McCartney / Bill Shepherd? I really don't understand. Also, in another picture, you will see him wearing the ring. And here it is. Can I have a drum roll, please? Drum roll. All right. Build up some anticipation. You ready, guys? You ready to see the smoking gun right here to disprove what Chris Reeves has been saying? Let's go. Oh, you had to cut me off, didn't you, Phil? Look at that. Phil Spector's S ring right there in plain sight. See that? The ring? Mm-hmm. That belongs to Phil Spector. This is Phil Spector, not Al Pacino, not Bill Shepherd or Paul McCartney. Phil Spector.
From the mouth of Mr. Tate himself. He used to live at the back of Liverpool.
So it's obvious that Phil Spector wanted that scene cut because maybe he felt embarrassed. I mean, George said Beatles Bill's making a pig of himself. I mean, I wouldn't want that shit on, out there. Phil Spector's probably just has a big ego problem. So, Chris Reeves, I've debunked your theory. I've proven you wrong. You should probably take this video down and, correct what you have been saying here, because a lot of people will fall for this and spread this disinformation without really looking into it. Lastly, why do you think John Lennon winked at the camera when they were mentioning Beatle Ed or Fall being at number 5 on the Swedish charts?
Beatle Ed's not doing so well these days, is he, Beatle Ed?
Well, he's number 5 in Sweden.
Oh, in Sweden, that's it.
And there you have it. Now, on to the next deceiver.
It's hard for Australians, I'm sure, when you think of the Beatles' tours to Australia, it's hard for an Australian to believe that you three guys who remain don't get on.
We all have concepts of each other,
I don't expect you to go into the finances of it, the details, but is it really, a question over $1 million or $100 million? Is that the sort of thing?
It's not really to do with anything like that. It's the personal problem Paul had, which was not actually his problem, it was mine and Ringo, because of what the history should show. As soon as we do that, Paul will be free of any problem he may have of us. I'm really getting to know each other again, and it was so sad really that Paul should use an old business kind of thing and superimpose it on that situation of the Hall of Fame. And it's sad really that he's like that, but it is really sad because we spent a long time this last year and the early part of, well, just the end of the year, right before I came away from London. We had lots of dinners and meetings, and we were all really on a great course, which we still are on a business sense, of solving every problem we ever had finally after all these years. And it was just a shame that Paul should use like a sort of political sort of situation. And also I think he put another nail in his own coffin as far as him as a person, because, as Bob Dylan said at the Hall of Fame, love and peace is one thing, but we all have to have forgiveness. It seems so silly what he did. But in spite of that, I still love him, and it doesn't matter. I'm going to continue my friendship with him, regardless of his attitude.
But is it really, a question over $1 million or $100 million? Is that the sort of thing?
It's not really to do with anything like that. It's a much more subtle thing than that. But it's, as I say, we've had difficulties with the record company we used to be with, or that the Beatles are still with. And at this point in time, we're right on the, for the first time really in 10 years of solving all those problems. Now everybody's talking and it looks like it's all going to be solved. The personal problem Paul had, which was not actually his problem, it was mine and Ringo, because if you want to know, Paul got extra money off Beatle records that we didn't get, when we always agreed that we'd all get it equal.
See what I mean? You see what I mean, guys? So much disinfo out there, it's pretty sickening. So oldies, but Dillies and John Reeves. You should probably revisit some of this information and relook over the evidence that you guys obviously tampered with, and probably change your story, kind of like Paul McCartney does all the time. There you have it, guys. Avoid these channels. Use discernment whenever looking into this stuff, because we could all be easily fooled. I even was with some things while doing this video, and I've literally have gone back multiple times to try to see if I got anything wrong, or if, because a lot of times we'll present things, but we'll present things that are factual, but we won't have all the pieces there, and some things might get jumbled up. There's a big difference between that and purposefully messing with videos and editing stuff to make it look like something else, to prove your point that you're trying to make, but you're lying. So basically lying. So these two guys are liars. Whether it was intentional or not, they should know better. There's no excuse. The information's out there, and we should all know better at the end of the day. So in the future, just look out for this, guys, and let's get back to the good stuff. I was thinking that it must really suck for Billy Shepherd to have to sing Yesterday at every single performance for the past 50 years, knowing he didn't even write the song, and it's more commercially successful and covered the most, more than any of his songs. And
yesterday, all my troubles seemed so far away. Now it looks as though it used to say, oh, I need yesterday. Suddenly, I'm not half the man I used to be. There's a shadow hanging over me. Oh, yesterday came suddenly.
I do think in post-production there was a lot of voice manipulation and editing to make them, or to make Billy Shepherd, especially in certain songs on Sgt. Pepper, which it sounds very, very different, and it's not like character theater, singing or acting. It doesn't really match, especially what you hear on other albums, and this can be done. It's very easy. So I feel like they did a lot of things to manipulate Billy Shepherd's voice, or maybe even raise the pitch in like songs like When I Was 64, to get Billy's voice to match Paul's, range, his more harmonic, melodic range. Whereas you could tell sometimes Bill Shepherd, his singing runs kind of flat.
And now the time has come, and so my love I must go. Penny Lane is in my ears and in my eyes. There beneath the blue suburban sky, here, making each day of the year, changing my life with a wave of their hand. Nobody can deny.
you might like to know. So let me introduce to you the one and only Billy Shears.
Think you've lost her love? Well, I saw her yesterday. It's who she's thinking of, and she told me what to say. She said she loves you, and you know that can be bad. Yes, she loves you, and you know you should be glad.
Lady Madonna, children at your feet, wonder how you manage to make ends meet.
I want her everywhere, and if she's thinking to the top of the slide,
When John Lennon said that that famous quote about the Beatles being more popular than Jesus, that basically is what started, or that's where the downfall began. I feel like after that, things just kind of went sour and kind of went to shit for the Beatles. And you'll see from these interviews coming up exactly what I mean. And they were, of course, propped up, being used, and honestly, you know, everything was like great, and they were making movies, and their Beatlemania. But then something happened in 1966, and I believe it does have to do with, again, the statement that John Lennon made about Jesus.
If it had said television is more popular than Jesus, I might have got away with it. You know, but as I just happened to be talking to a friend, I used the word Beatles as a remote thing, not as what I think, as Beatles as though those other Beatles like other people see us. And I just said they are having more influence on kids and things than anything else, including Jesus. But I said it in that way, which is the wrong way, yap yap. I was just saying it as a fact. And it is true, especially more for England than here. You know, I'm not saying that we're better or greater or comparing us with Jesus Christ as a person or God as a thing or whatever it is.
People in the 60s were, I guess, really butthurt. They just, they couldn't take the truth then, and they couldn't take the truth now. Nothing's changed. I mean, look at that. But yeah, something happened, and take a look at these press conferences from the Beatles in '66, and just see how, like, their mood and everything changes, and changed from back then, you know, being really funny, outgoing, like, and then just being miserable and depressed, like the Apollo astronauts when they came back from the moon mission.
I mean, we could say a thing about, like John's religious thing in England. The thing is, I think, you know, you can say things like that in England, and people will listen a bit more than they do in America, because in America somebody will take it up and use it completely against you. You know, I'm probably putting my foot in it saying that, but oh well, it's just wonderful here. Do you expect us just to go on forever, you know, making more and more money, making more and more figures, bigger and bigger? You can't just go on forever.
If certain people have decided they don't like the statement, then, you know, we'd rather who like us and really like us rather than pretend to like us.
The disc jockey Tommy Charles, who started this row off, has said that he won't play your records until you've grown up a little. How do you feel about that?
Well, I don't mind if he never plays them again.
When they hear us say things like this, that we're so childish, you know. I mean, you can't say things like that unless you're a silly little child.
And if he was grown up, he wouldn't have done the thing, because he only did it for a stunt anyway.
Do you feel that Americans are out to get you, that this is all developing into something of a witch hunt?
Yes, Richard.
It seems to me you've always been successful because you've been outspoken. Does it seem a bit hard to you that people are now knocking you for this very thing? Do you mind being asked questions, for example, in America, people keep asking questions about Vietnam? Does this seem useful?
Well, I don't know, you know, if you can say that war's not good and a few people believe you, then it may be good, I don't know.
You can't say too much, though, that's the trouble. It seems a bit silly to be in America and for none of them to mention Vietnam as if nothing was happening.
But why should they ask you about it? You're successful entertainer.
Because Americans always ask showbiz people what they think about it, so do the British. You can't just keep quiet about anything that's going on in the world unless you're a monk.
Something happened, not just to the Beatles, but to Paul McCartney. And from that point, everything went downhill. And no one has ever bothered to ask why, and no one's ever tried to figure out why and how. You know, it was Yoko Ono. Combined with psychedelic drugs, LSD, which they were pushing in the 60s, of course, as part of this whole social experiment to brainwash and control people. Paul McCartney and John Lennon, especially the Beatles, were very popular. They basically inspired a lot of people in many ways, and they had a huge influence. And I guess maybe at a certain point they wouldn't fall in line with the agenda. They wouldn't go along with the script or the agenda of the elites. So it's very possible that not only Paul McCartney but John Lennon were both taken out and replaced. They were the singers and the frontmen. Let's listen and hear and see some interviews by George and John, and between all of them, this is where it gets wild and interesting.
Well, it was half and half, you know. I mean,
he's a great guy, but he also said the Beatles were bastards, and he didn't miss the Beatles.
He's saddened that Paul McCartney wasn't able to appear.
It's a shame he missed it because he contributed so much to it, but it didn't spoil our night. We still had fun without him.
Have you been able to have any reconciliation with Paul since that particular event?
Oh, he's okay.
Because if any of you actually remember when we were together, everybody's talking as if it was wonderful all the time, on all the press and everybody and the people all saying how great and wonderful, but it wasn't like that at all.
But the one thing I knew about John was that he shut his mouth off very often about things, so that there was a point that, you know, and he deliberately wanted to say crummy things about me.
Yeah, I regret that it was so. No, the song is. Well, two things I regretted. One, that there was so much talk about Paul. They missed the song. It was a good track, and I should have, you know, kept my mouth shut. Not on the song. It could have been about anybody, you know.
Look, if John had thought that I was rubbish, he didn't suffer fools gladly. He wouldn't have worked with me as long as we did.
Paul and I were always the sort of out front ones. And so our celebrated feud, you know, Lennon-McCartney we wrote the songs, etc. It was bigger.
Yeah, I think John said a lot of things that he didn't necessarily mean. John was that kind of guy.
My position has always been the devil in the deep blue sea.
He was hurt. He later explained it by saying that I'd kind of hurt him over some things, and it was kind of bitchy.
God damn. Our first national press was me beating up a disc jockey at Paul's 21st party. That was the first Beatles national press, and we got the back page of the Mirror. I've always been a little, you know, loose.
I think the only way I could get the kind of edge John had would be to have a different childhood, and I certainly wouldn't have wished for that.
I'm not insane. I'm not alone, you know. That's just on a personal level.
I think if John was here now, I don't think he'd say he was the only one in the Beatles or that he was the soul of the Beatles. But, you know, having said that, he was great. I'm more than proud to have worked with someone like him.
It wasn't that we weren't talking to each other. There was so much going on, we didn't get a chance, you know, and he was up in Campbelltown. Gardening. Yeah. He was up there for a long time at one period. Nobody could get in touch with him at all.
No, for me, it was just so sad that, you know, I wasn't going to see him again. And
yeah, like you give a shit. Did you notice, guys, the Campbelltown thing? As in, like, Billy Campbell, Billy Shepherd, Billy Shears.
Now, George came through Paul.
I said, well, I've got this friend who's really good, you know. And they said, well, yeah, like what? You know, I said, well, he can play raunchy. 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 Perfectly. Down, 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 down. And we all loved that song. So we said, well, gotta try him out. I remember we ended up on the top deck of a bus, empty, late night bus kind of thing, and just us there. And he said, go on, George, get your guitar out. Go on, you show him, man. I thought, yeah. And he got it out. Down, down, down. Sure enough. Note perfect. Raunchy. You're in.
That is one big...
I was talking to George, and we realised we've never written together. Me and George. So that
didn't say how I wrote 2 lines to Come Together or 3 lines to Eleanor Rigby. You know, I wasn't getting into any of that. He rewrites history all the time.
So every single book, you know, and I remember being in there doing the War Child benefit, and we were doing a version of Come Together with Paul Weller and Paul McCartney. Yeah. And we're kind of, well, then we're doing this press call, and we were saying to McCartney, you know, it's 37 years ago to the day you recorded Love Me Do today. And he was going, how do you know that? And he was like, we know more about your band than you do. Going, is that true? And we ended up having to go out, get the book and go.
That's great.
Because he was going, no, I actually think it was in March. And it was like, really? Like, it fucking says there, right there, it was in August. I think you'll find you would have just finished it by now.
Norman is the author of Shout, which many consider the definitive Beatles biography.
The Beatles is not a normal story, it's a supernatural story. And the pressure was supernatural, and it required supernatural luck and forbearance to recover from it. He's the one that we're going to have to ask about the Beatles. There's no one else to ask now, because McCartney won't tell you. Ringo can't.
What do you mean?
He rewrites history all the time.
And Ringo can't tell you because...
He doesn't know. He drank the drink, he smoked the joints, he had the girls, and he drummed the drums. That was Ringo.
Bob remembers with Paul McCartney in London, if you run the show backwards, it will not say Paul's dead, Paul's dead, Paul's dead.
Oh my God, I'm a clone, you know. Yeah. I'm a clone, you know. Yeah. I don't know, I'm a clone, you know.
No, that's not me.
You see, a big change happened in 1966.
Well, I mean, you know, I think there's always an element of that to everything I do. You know, I always sort of think, they shouldn't be paying me this money. I'm not, you know, I'm not him.
Can you explain yourself?
I'm some little kid masquerading as this guy who was like the famous guy. So, I mean, they shouldn't be paying me this money. I'm not, you know, I'm not him. I'm some little kid. I'm not him. I'm not him. I'm not him.
Fucking books.
I'm not him. No, I'm not him. I'm not him.
We had a lot to talk about.
It's hard for an Australian to believe that you 3 guys who remain don't get on. I mean, you were so much a team.
But we do get on. I mean, at this point in time, I'm the closest I've been with Paul now for, say, the last 10, 12 years. And that's why it seems so silly what he did. It was unfortunate because also I know Paul's wife Linda was cursing. She wanted badly to go to that show, and I think Paul did too. Maybe he was badly advised by somebody. Badly advised by somebody. Badly advised by somebody. By somebody.
Saddened that Paul McCartney wasn't able to appear?
For him, it's a pity he missed it because he would have had a good time. You know, and it was nice to see people saying, well, after all that we've done, you know, that's all it was, really. Get the lads here, give them a pat on the back and give them the medal. And it's a shame he missed it because he contributed so much to it, but it didn't spoil our night. We still had fun without him.
Have you been able to have any reconciliation with Paul since that particular event?
We're long past all the squabbles now.
How did you feel when you heard the McCartney versions of the old songs on Broad Street?
I think they were okay. I didn't notice that they were new versions. I only watched it once. I quite liked it, but I don't really... I remember dancing, all that one about ballroom dancing and stuff. I don't remember the old ones.
He said that he wanted to tackle some of the other old songs, including possibly some of John Lennon's songs, like Beautiful Boy and Imagine. Does that surprise you that he would do that?
Paul?
Yeah.
Maybe because he ran out of good ones of his own.
Well, now we've got that on record.
Well, it's true. It's true.
Last few years I've said my mind to him, you know, just whenever I felt something like, you know, thing like Broad Street I thought was a big mistake. Not to make the film, because I quite enjoyed it myself. Had suggested maybe the chance of me and he writing together something. And, I mean, it's pretty funny, really, because, I mean, I've only been there about 30 years in Paul's life, and it's like now he wants to write with me. I think it's maybe quite interesting sometime to do that.
You know why I've left you. Protect me, and I will say nothing. Something so awful happened. Someone I'd loved for a long time, I found out, had betrayed me immensely, and I don't mean infidelity or anything like that. Like, beyond belief.
So somebody betrayed you, and of course everyone here is going to believe that that's Paul McCartney. In a way, not infidelity. That is so much deeper than that. It wounded you and pushed you towards suicide.
Yeah. And he knows that.
So it's Paul.
But I've got to protect myself. I have to protect myself. People don't want to know what the truth is because they could never, ever handle it. It's too devastating.
Is that when the rumors about you being dead surfaced? Do you remember that? Do you remember remember how that started? What were your feelings about that?
What happened? Yeah, my feeling. Yeah, no. What happened was we did a cover for a record called Abbey Road, and we. See, even the cover gets applause. So, yeah, and the idea was to walk across the crossing, and I showed up that day with sandals, flip-flops, and so it was so hot that I kicked them off and walked across barefooted. So there started some rumor that because he was barefooted, he's dead. He's dead. I couldn't see the connection myself.
I know fuck you lying. Why you always lying?
It seems like a long, slow, difficult death. Being barefooted will kill you.
Scorched feet.
And what do you? How do you manage something like that? Because it was a global rumor, and
yeah. I mean, you know, I just laughed at it and knew it was just because of the fame and the craziness. It was an American DJ, so you guys are to blame.
Yeah.
Not you personally, but no, the thing is, you know, I just laughed it off, but it was a little bit strange because people did start looking at me like,
right.
Is it him or a very good double?
Well, that was the idea. That was the other part of it, that there was a guy who looked like you taking your place.
No, well, this is him.
Yeah.
Or is it?
What were you recording today?
I was just listening to some stuff, you know, I just didn't want to sit at home. Why? Well, I didn't feel like it.
What time did you hear the news?
This morning sometime.
Oh my God, stop fucking lying.
Drag, isn't it? Okay, cheers. Bye.
So, you know, it was, obviously I was like probably more shattered than most people when John died.
Okay, cheers. Bye.
And I had plenty of sort of personal grief. There was two girls called Chris and Val, and they used to say, "Sing Searching, Paul. Sing Searching." That used to be the big request from Chris and Val. That was me and George did that bit, and John sang the lead. To sum up the whole thing, I've chosen one off John Lennon's record Double Fantasy, which I think is a beautiful song. It's very moving to me. But anyway, so I'd just like to sum the whole thing up by playing a song called Beautiful Boy.
Close your eyes and don't fear. The monster's gone. He's on the run and your daddy's here. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful
But I'm not very good at kind of public grief. So someone thrust a microphone into my face on the day it happened and said, what's your comment? Now all the other pundits came out with great comments. Well, John will be sorely missed, and he's so and so. They summed it up. All I could muster was like, it's a drag. And it was like, I couldn't say anything else. I just couldn't. Nor could George, nor could Ringo.
Unfortunately, you know, Paul is a hypocrite sometimes when, you know, because right before we had that Hall of Fame thing, we'd not been friends for a number of years, and we spent a long time really getting to know each other again. And it was so sad, really, that Paul should use an old business kind of thing and superimpose it on that situation of the Hall of Fame. And it's sad, really, that he's like that. But it was really sad because we spent a long time this last year and the early part of, well, just the end of the year, right before I came away from London. We had lots of dinners and meetings, and we were all really on a great course, which we still are on a business sense, of solving every problem we ever had, finally, after all these years. And it was just a shame that Paul should use like a sort of political sort of situation. And also I think he put another nail in his own coffin as far as him as a person, because, you know, as Bob Dylan said at the Hall of Fame, love and peace is one thing, but we all have to have forgiveness. It seems so silly what he did. But in spite of that, I still love him, and it doesn't matter. I'm going to continue my friendship with him regardless of his attitude, because I don't have time to screw around anymore, you know?
But you see a lot of Ringo, don't you, obviously?
I see a lot of Ringo.
I'm really sad. Came out with any big comments, because he was too dear to us, you know, it was just too much of a shock, yeah. But of course, then that got reprinted. McCartney, when asked what he thought of Lennon's death, said, it's a drag, it's a drag, it's a drag, it's a drag.
And the music was always more important than anything else. To me personally. You'll have to ask the other two.
For people...
Isn't it funny when you say that now?
Yes.
You know, it's so new to me that I always sort of... It clogs you up a bit when you say... You know, because you're so glib saying, oh, we'll ask the other three. Now we can only ask two, which is dragging its way in, but I'm sure he's okay. I'm really sad.
But is it really, you know, a question over $1 million or $100 million? Is that the sort of thing?
It's not really to do with anything like that. It's a much more subtle thing than that. But it's, as I say, we've had or difficulties with the record company we used to be with, or that the Beatles are still with. And at this point in time, we're right on the, for the first time really in 10 years of solving all those problems. Now everybody's talking and it looks like it's all going to be solved. The personal problem Paul had, which was not actually his problem, it was mine and Ringo, because if you want to know, Paul got extra money off Beatle records that we didn't get, when we always agreed that we'd all get it equal.
Try to realize it's all within yourself. No one else can make you change. And to see you're really only very small, and life flows on within you and without you. Turn up your mind, relax and float downstream.
The feeling that anybody has when somebody close to them dies, there's a sort of little hysterical sort of hee and glad it's not me or something in it, you know, that funny feeling when somebody dies. I don't know whether you've had it. I've had a lot of people die on me, you know, and the other feeling is, you know, what the fuck, you know, what can I do, you know, I mean, I knew that we were in trouble then, you know, what can I do, you know, I mean, I knew that we were in trouble then. I didn't really have any misconceptions about our ability to do anything other than play music. And I was scared, you know. I thought, we fucking had it now.
What was it?
Could you pass me that pepper there, the bit of it?
What was it? Events, you know, so that immediately happened after Brian died.
Well, we went with Maharishi. I don't know. I remember being in Wales, and then I can't remember, you know. I mean, I'll probably have to have a bloody session to remember it. So I don't remember, you know. It just all happened, you know.
And then you went to India.
Yeah, I think so.
What about the funeral?
Oh, that was bullshit, you know. I was defended, you know. I'd forgotten. No, I didn't. It was funerals.
And how did Paul?
I don't know how the others took it. I never tell how. No, it's no good asking me. It's like me asking how you took it. You know, I don't know. I'm in my own head. You know, I can't be in anybody else's. I don't know what George, Paul, and Ringo think any more than I do about. You know, I know them pretty well, but I don't know anybody that well. You know. Yoko and about the best, you know. You can't. I don't know how they felt. I was in my own thing. We were all just like dazed, you know.
So Brian died, and then we said, then what happened is Paul started to take over.
Well, that's Paul. Paul, I think, Paul, I don't know how much of this I want to put out. I don't know how much of this I want to put out, I tell you. I think Paul had an impression, he has it now like a parent, that we should be thankful for what he did, you know. But he kept, for keeping the Beatles going, but when you look upon it objectively, he kept it going for his own sake, you know. But not for my sake did Paul struggle. But Paul made an attempt to carry on as if Brian hadn't died, you know, by saying, now, boys, we're going to make a record. You know, and being the kind of person I am, I thought, well, you know, we're going to make a record, all right. So I went along, we went and made a record. And I suppose we made Pepper, I'm not sure, you know.
That was before.
Well, that was before Brian. Oh, I see. Well, we made the double album then. But it was like that, you know, I mean, and then, was My Little Mystery Tour after Brian? Yeah, well, that was the real... See, I think Paul had a tendency to come along and say, well, he's written his 10 songs, let's record now. And I said, well, give us a few days, and I'll knock a few off, you know, or something like that. My Little Mystery Tour was another where he'd set it up, you know, and then he'd worked it out with Mal, and then he came and showed me what his idea was, and this is how it went. It went around like this, the story, and he had it all, you know, production, and he says, well, here's the segment, you write a little piece for that. And I thought, fucking hell, I've never made a film. What do you mean? You can write a script. So, you know, I ran off and wrote the dream sequence for the fat woman and all the thing with the spaghetti and all that. And all that. It was like that, you know. And then George and I were sort of grumbling, you know, fucking movie, you know, well, we better do it. I'm appealing that we owed the public or owed somebody or other that we should do these things, you know. So we made it, you know.
When did your songwriting partnership with Paul end?
That ended, I don't know, around 1962 or something. I don't know. I mean, if you give me the albums, I can tell you exactly who wrote what, you know, and which line. I mean, we sometimes wrote together and sometimes didn't, but all our best work, apart from the early days, like I Want to Hold Your Hand, we wrote together and things like that. We wrote apart always, you know. Even Liverpool, One After 909 on the What's It LP is one I wrote when 17 or 18 in Liverpool, separately from Paul, and some of his, I don't know, The Sun Is Fading Away and things like that, the things Paul wrote those days. We always wrote separately, but we wrote together because we enjoyed it a lot sometimes, and also because they'd say, well, you're going to make an album, we'd get together and knock off a few songs, you know, just like a job.
Whose idea was to go to India?
Well, I don't know. I don't know. Probably George's. I have no idea. You know? No, we met around then, but I was going to take it, but I lost my nerve because I was going to take my wife and Yoko, and I didn't know how to work it, you know. So I didn't do it. I didn't quite do it.
Set to say you wrote that song.
That's about Maharishi. You know? I copped out and wouldn't write Maharishi. What have you done? You know, the fool of everyone. But now it can be told, fab listeners.
When did you realize that he was making a fool of you?
I don't know. I just sort of saw him, you know.
While in India, or when you got back?
Yeah, somebody said, you know, there was a big hullabaloo about him trying to get off with me and a few other women and things like that. And we went down to him, and we'd stayed up all night discussing was it true or not true, you know. And when George started thinking it might be true, well, I thought, well, it must be true, because if George is doubting it, there must be something in it. So we went to see Maharishi. The whole gang was the next day charged down to his hut, you know, his bungalow, his very rich-looking bungalow in the mountains. And I was the spokesman. As usual, when the dirty work came, I actually had to be leader, whatever the scene was. When it came to the nitty-gritty, I had to do the speaking. And I said, we're leaving. Why? You know, all that shit. And I said, well, if you're so cosmic, you'll know why. You know, because he was always intimating, and there were all these right-hand men intimating that he did miracles, you know. And I said, you know why? You know. He said, I don't know why, you must tell me. And I just kept saying, and he gave me a look like, oh, kill you bastard. He gave me such a look, and I knew then when he looked at me, you know, because I'd called his bluff. And if you know, you know all. You know, cosmic conscious, that's what we're all here for. And I was a bit rough to him, you know.
You're expecting too much from him.
I always do, you know. I always expect too much. I always expect in my mother and don't get her. That's what it is, you know, or some parents. I know that much.
So when did you decide you had to come to New York to denounce him?
Denounce him?
Well, you came to New York at the press conference.
The Apple thing, that was to announce Apple.
But also at the same time,
I don't remember that.
About the Maharishi.
Well, what did I say? I don't know. You know, I mean, we all say a lot of things that we don't know what we're talking about. I'm probably doing it now. I don't know what I said, you know. See, everybody takes you up on the words you said in that report. I'm just a guy who people ask what about things. I blab off, and some of it makes sense, some of it's bullshit, and some of it's lies, and some of it's God knows what I'm saying. Some of it's bullshit, and some of it's bullshit. Some of it's lies, bullshit, some of it's lies, and some of it's God knows what I'm saying.
I don't know anything on it. I'll just listen.
God knows what.
There's no use me playing the bass because I don't know anything on it.
Say that, there knows me feelings.
I'll just listen. It was bad. That's what I mean. I went through all that last time, so I'm playing it. I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking of bass. That's what I mean. Okay, should we do this? So I don't know anything on it. I'll just listen.
Don't say that, there knows me feelings.
There's no use me playing the bass because I don't know anything on it. I'll just listen. It was bad. That's what I mean. I went through all that last time, so I'm playing it. I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking of bass. That's what I mean. Okay, should we do this? It was bad. That's what I mean. It was bad. It was bad. That's what I mean. It was bad. It was bad. That's what I mean.
We have to really look at the Beatles pre-66 and post-66, and just the relationship between them all changed, and it became like this riff between Paul McCartney and everybody else, and all the other members. Why and how did that happen? Are you going to blame a woman, Yoko Ono? It's really easy to blame a woman with all of our problems, believe me, but that doesn't mean it's the main source of the problem. I think we all know at this point what the main source of the issue was, is because after this Paul McCartney death and him being replaced by Bill Shepherd, of course it's going to cause a rift. Bill Shepherd came in, he was put in there by the Masons, the controllers, and he was chosen specifically for this. He's been around the Beatles, he's been attached to the Beatles since the very beginning pretty much. And Bill Shepherd was always waiting on the sidelines just in case, for that one day, and that it happened.
I didn't want to talk about it. I did want to ask you, can I ask you one final question? And this is the question I was so scared to ask you of. Can I ask it? Can I ask it?
Go for it.
Well, okay. I'm gonna go in. If you say cut this question, we'll cut it.
Just ask. It's a big setup.
What was it like playing with Billy Shepherd instead of fucking Paul McCartney?
Who's Billy Shepherd?
I don't know.
Billy Shears. Who the hell's Billy Campbell anyway? Who the hell's Billy Campbell anyway?